Hello, hello, and welcome. Welcome on into the swear word. I'm your host, Brandon Swear, and hey, this is a podcast for the chilihead community, by the chilihead community. Regardless of your spice tolerance, this is the place for you. Up tonight, we're going to be talking about Spice Invincibles, the over Supertasters, and much, much more. So, are you ready to figure out who ignores that capsaicin fiery punch? Episode 141 starts now. What's going on, Swear Nation? So glad to have everyone here. Whether you're tuning in on YouTube, Spotify, Rumble, or Apple Podcasts, thank you so much for being here and continuing to make this podcast what it is. Well, up tonight, tonight's podcast is going to be an absolute wild one. Usually we are talking about how people are chasing the burn, the rush, the sweat, and even the tears that come from eating spicy food. But what if I told you that there were animals and even a handful of humans who don't feel any of it? Capsaicin, the compound that's responsible for that fiery punch, hits most of us like a flamethrower to our tongue. But some creatures, and even for some rare humans, this is basically a giant nothing burger. We're talking about the Spice Invincibles. Who are they? Why does this happen? And does being immune to capsaicin also change the way in how you interact with pain or taste other foods, and even how you react to caffeine or alcohol? Oh, and also, of course, we're going to sprinkle in a few hilarious and mind-blowing animal facts along the way. So go ahead, grab your favorite hot sauce, or go ahead and grab that glass of milk if you're not immune, because we're going to be diving into this sizzling mystery. Let's go ahead and kick off tonight's discussion. All right, so let's go ahead, and before I get too far into this conversation, I want to go ahead and state that this is all kind of been slowly adding up. If you've been paying attention to the most recent podcast episodes, really diving into TRPV1 receptor, how the brain, how the body responds to capsaicin, the overall interaction in which you as the person consuming it are experiencing the whole thing. This also tonight stems out because of the current and most recent kind of topics that have been floating around for a bit, talking about those who might be able to not feel or have a very diminished feeling of the overall effects of capsaicin. So, with that being said, nothing here is really saying it's a bad thing one way or another. It's completely out of these individuals' control, and we'll cover more about that tonight. But first, let's go ahead and start with the animal kingdom. Normally, when capsaicin touches the inside of your mouth, it latches onto something called your TRPV1 receptor. Think of it as a fire alarm wired to your nerves. Once it's triggered, your brain screams, danger, fire, pain, let's get away. But here's the kicker. Some animals never hear that alarm. Birds are the biggest stars here. Think chickens, parrots, sparrows, you name it. None of them care about capsaicin. Their receptors are wired completely differently. So when they chow down on chili peppers, it doesn't trigger the burn at all for them. That's why farmers tend to use capsaicin-coated birdseed to help keep the squirrels away. The squirrels are in pain when they try to steal that seed, but the birds just happily snack on it, fly off, and spread the seeds far and wide. Evolution has made this happen on purpose. Chili plants want birds to spread their seeds. So basically, nature has turned off the spice for them. Pretty clever, right? And it's not just birds. Frogs, like the western clawed frog, have tiny tweaks in their biology. Literally, a single amino acid changes everything. That's what helps make them less sensitive. Some rabbits and even a few oddball rodents show resistance too. It's like nature has installed a simple spice filter. To put it simply, imagine that you're at a horror movie marathon. Everyone around you is jumping, screaming, covering their eyes, but you're just sitting there, simply like nothing's happening. You're just enjoying your popcorn and having a good time. That's how birds feel about eating chili peppers. So now the big question, can humans join this no burn club? Well, the short answer is simply yes, but it's extremely rare. There are documented cases where people are born with a genetic mutation that knocks out the TRPV1 receptors. Now, without that receptor working properly, capsaicin has no effect. Go ahead and imagine, if you will, that you're biting into an ultra hot pepper, maybe even the world's hottest. And now you're feeling absolutely nothing. No tears, no sweat, no fire in the belly. There was even a recent report where a family had multiple members with the same genetic alteration. They could eat chili peppers like it was candy, and they weren't superheroes. They just had altered wiring. It's like having a smoke detector in your house, but all the batteries are dead. Now, if this isn't something that you develop later in life, but instead you're born this way, if you've ever enjoyed spicy food without much reaction, that's more about tolerance or habit, or maybe it's about missing a receptor. And that's where it gets wild, because scientists study these rare cases because they help us understand chronic pain. They know how to design new painkillers, because if you can block the TRPV1, you can potentially block certain types of pain. So these spice immune humans are basically walking science experiments that could change the overall course for medicine. Now, let's go ahead and take a moment to essentially, let's flip the story here. Instead of talking about people who can't feel capsaicin, what about those who do feel it way more than the rest of us? Enter the Supertasters. About 1 in 4 people are born with extra taste buds. Specifically, more little bumps on the tongue. They also can help carry certain genetic variations that make them a little bit more sensitive to the overall taste that makes things much more intense for them. These folks live in high definition flavorland. They can detect tiny hints of sweetness, bitterness, or sourness that most people would just simply miss. It's like having a tongue that's permanently tuned into max sensitivity. Sounds pretty cool, right? Well, here's the catch. It also means capsaicin hits them way harder. For a super taster, eating a jalapeno can feel like a ghost pepper. Coffee can taste extra bitter. Alcohol can sting more. And even certain vegetables like broccoli and kale can taste extra harsh. So while some people are spice ghosts feeling nothing, super tasters are more like spice magnets. Every flavor and every burn is amplified. So let's go ahead and step back to the spice immune humans for a second. If you can't feel capsaicin, does that mean you don't feel other things too? The answer is partially yes, but also partially no. The TRPV1 receptor isn't just about chili peppers. It's also one of the receptors that helps you really sense heat. So people missing the TRPV1 receptor often have a higher threshold for hot temperatures. That means that they may not notice when something is scalding hot until it's dangerously hot. But they feel cold, pressure, and sharp pain normally because those signals use different pathways. So it's like muting one channel of your sensory remote control, and you can't hear the spice channel, but all the other channels, those are still playing. And so now you're probably wondering, how common is this? Well, it's absolutely incredibly rare. We're talking less than 1 in a million people. Based on just simple case studies, for the most of us, the burn is very real. And what about pepper spray and capsaicin creams for spice immune folks? Even those wouldn't cause the overall pain because those products rely on the same TRPV1 receptors. At most, they might feel some irritation from the liquid itself, but no fiery burn. Imagine pepper spray being plain water misting your face. That's how immune some of these individuals can be. So this brings back to what has been rolling around. You've seen this kind of mentioned in a recent League of Fire blog post. You've seen this in different various chili head comment sections of different groups talking about those individuals who might be either immune to capsaicin, i.e. their TRPV1 receptor being blocked, prohibited, muted, whatever the case may be, because it is not always just a definitive it's on or off. Some folks can have, for example, like a 70 or 80% blockage. So they're maybe picking up 20 to 30% of what everyone else would. Whether you're a super taster or you have your TRPV1 receptor that has some kind of limit or blockage or complete shutoff. Those individuals did not choose to be born this way. It just happened naturally. Now that we've talked about super tasters, we've talked about those that have the TRPV1 receptor that is limited or reduced or completely blocked altogether, now starts to bring into question what organs are impacted by capsaicin. Does it have a positive or negative impact on the neuroplasticity that is in your brain, as well as how does capsaicin interact with other medications or vitamins? So before we navigate into this, one thing that's often brought up is how much does hydration matter for a competition or just eating spicy in general? How does your body handle capsaicin when it's wet versus when it's dry? Plus, we're going to dive a little bit into some of the natural heat busters. So we're going to be diving into how your body tackles capsaicin when you're all hydrated and refreshed versus whenever you're parched and it's like a desert cactus. Plus, we're going to be talking about the natural ways to dial down that fiery inferno without reaching for the fire extinguisher. So first up, the hydration battle. So picture your body as a high-tech spice processing factory. When you're well hydrated, think chugging that H2O like a pro athlete. Mucous membranes, those slimy shields in your mouth, nose, and gut, are pumping and ready for action. Capsaicin being the hydrophobic troublemaker that it is, which it hates water and won't dissolve in it, still tricks your TRPV1 receptors into yelling fire. But hydration helps keep things moving smoothly. So while drinking water after eating something hot won't help the situation, being hydrated before you go into it helps your saliva flow better. It helps dilute the overall spice just a tad and prevents the extreme dryness that amps up the burn. Studies show that staying hydrated can reduce the overall discomfort of capsaicin, like less intense dry mouth or overall fatigue, because dehydration teams up with the spice and makes the symptoms like headache, dizziness, nausea feel like a double whammy. It's like capsaicin is throwing a party and hydration is the chili bouncer keeping the chaos in check. Now, let's go ahead and flip the script here. So, non-hydrated mode, the AKA dehydrated disaster. If you're low on fluids, your mouth turns into a tinderbox. Dry mucous membranes get more sensitive, making the capsaicin burn feel way hotter and lasting longer than it should. Dehydration exacerbates that spicy effect turning a mild tingle into a full-on blaze because your body's natural defense, like saliva and mucus, are running on empty. Plus, capsaicin already makes you sweat to cool down. That's just simply your body's natural AC kicking in. And if you're dehydrated, that sweat session can leave you even more wiped out. Spicy food cranks up your internal cooling system, causing sweating and running noses, but without enough hydration, you're just fanning the flames. It's overall a hilarious analogy. Think of it like this. Hydrated you is like a well-oiled slip and slide, just simply for capsaicin. It slides through with less drama, as where the dehydrated you, it's like sandpaper on a sunburn. Complete painful. But wait, there's still hope, because if you're already on fire, there are some natural heat reducers. No meds needed, just kitchen heroes. So forget guzzling water. It often makes it worse by spreading the capsaicin around in your mouth like confetti at a bad party. Instead, go for dairy delights, things like milk, yogurt, ice cream. They contain that casein protein that grabs the capsaicin like a magnet and helps wash it away. Science shows that ultimately it is the best burn buster. Other things that are great are things like fats. They will definitely be your friend here. So go ahead and swipe some of that olive oil, avocado oil, or eat some avocado and some natural different peanut butter, almond butter, cashew butters, and place that on your tongue. The capsaicin will help dissolve in the fat, not in the water. So ultimately, if you're looking for other ways to do that, maybe you can't do milk, maybe you're allergic to different nuts or oils, then try things like starches, things like bread, rice, potatoes. They help absorb the spice like a sponge, giving your mouth a breather. There's some acidic zingers here that would also help. Things like lemon or lime juice or even vinegar help neutralize the pH and cut the heat fast. Suck on a lemon wedge for instant relief. Maybe you like sweet stuff. Things like honey, sugar water mixed together can help soothe, as sugar binds to the spice molecule. And for a bit of a boozy twist here, things like alcohol or beer can help really dissolve it as well. If none of those options worked out well for you and you want to try something different, then go cold. Chilled remedies work better because they lower the body temperatures. That helps numb the receptors. So whether you're hydrated or not, these tricks turn capsaicin from foe to friend. Remember to stay quenched, and your spice adventure depends on it. So now that we've talked about Supertasters, we've talked about those that are able to have a reduced or no exposure to the effects of capsaicin. We've talked about hydrated versus dehydrated. We have talked about some natural remedies at which you can use to help cut the burn and reduce the overall impact afterwards. Let's talk about how your organs handle this while you're under fire. So let's go ahead and hold on to your hats, or should I say your organs, because capsaicin doesn't just hit your tongue, it goes on a full body adventure. So we're going to tour the major players, mixing the positives, yes, the overall health benefits, with the negatives. Imagine capsaicin as a spicy tourist snapping selfies everywhere it goes. Down the hatch, because capsaicin loves the GI tract. Positively, low doses can rev up your metabolism, aid in digestion, and even protect against ulcers by boosting your overall mucus production. A 2022 study in experimental biology and medicine called it a GI guardian. At moderate levels, it's anti-inflammatory too. Think of it as being able to also help with IBS and symptoms that are alike. But You crank it up and negatives hit. You start to feel the fluctuations of the acid reflux or the nausea or diarrhea or abdominal cramps. Your body sees it as a toxin and it's trying to flush it out and fast. The Cleveland Clinic warns of extreme spice and how it can inflame your stomach lining. It's like capsaicin is DJing a mosh pit in your intestines. Exhilarating, but you might need a bathroom break. And for the brave, well, you're going to be experiencing some painful poops. Blame the undigested capsaicin that is trickling out those rear end receptors. So what about breathing in capsaicin, like from pepper spray? The respiratory woes of coughing, wheezing, shortness of breath, it's no joke, but rare in food form. Positively, it might open up airways for asthmatics in tiny doses, per some animal studies. Heart-wise, that spice rushes spikes of adrenaline, boosting your overall heart rate, which is great for a quick hit of energy. Now the liver. Capsaicin's a buddy here as well. Frontiers in the Pharmacology of 2024 says that it protects against damage, fighting fibrosis, and even aids in anti-obesity effects. It's like capsaicin's whispering sweet nothings to your liver cells. Hey, let's detox together. So what about the eyes? Well, splash capsaicin in there and you're going to have intense pain, tears, and blurry vision. So you're going to want to avoid this at all costs. The kidneys, though, get a mild nod. It helps with the obesity. It might help with obesity-related issues indirectly, but overall, organs love moderation. Capsaicin impacts are dose-dependent based on different folks. Positive for weight loss and pain relief, negative for overdoers. So what about the neuroplasticity and how capsaicin has fun little mind games? So is your brain on fire? Literally? Well, capsaicin crosses the blood-brain barrier and plays with your noggin. Neuroplasticity is your brain's superpower, rewiring itself like a living circuit board per se. So does capsaicin help or hinder? Well, quick spoiler here, it does a little bit of both. So let's cover the good news first. Capsaicin is a potential brain protector. In Alzheimer's models, it ends up reducing the overall plaque, the tangles, and inflammation. And this has been studied and showcased in the 2023 MDPI review. It also has shown that there's been an improved memory in mice via utilizing their brain's long-term learning glue. It enhances the spatial working and episodic memory. Think sharper recall after simply eating that curry. For strokes, reduces the brain's risk of damage and improves the overall recovery. Parkinson's, well, you have less neurodegeneration. For depression, well, you have the antidepressant effects, boosting your serotonin vibes and preventing stress from zapping plasticity. Epilepsy, well, things get a little bit mixed up here, but it can help calm seizures in some areas of the brain. Think of capsaicin like a gym trainer, but for your neurons. A little bit of tough love, but it helps build resilience. But hold the hot sauce, because negatives do exist. High doses impair the neuronal maturization, reducing the new neuron growth in the hippocampus, which is key for your overall memory. So it ends up messing with many different synaptic proteins like the PSD95, basically the thing that is dimming your brain's plasticity lights. So things that are like sleep will be altered by the EEG rhythms, potentially disrupting rest. High chili intake has been linked to show worse cognition in humans, just per simple cohort studies, and can spike anxiety. In developing brains, it's harmful to maturization. It's like capsaicin is crashing your brain's Zen yoga session. It can be relaxing when at low volume, but chaotic when you have it all the way cranked up. Overall, positives do shine in the disorders. And at the same time, the negatives warn against excess. Dosing does matter. Moderate capsaicin, like in foods, boasts neuroplasticity via using the TRPV1 magic, while overloading tends to backfire. Fun fact, while looking all this over, chili eaters might live longer. But don't just start chugging that hot sauce, because keeping it spicy is not the same as keeping it scorched. So time to mix it up. Does capsaicin play nice with your pills? Mostly, yes. But some dances can get a little bit dicey. So while we're going to go ahead and focus on keeping this a little bit more entertaining, think of capsaicin as a flirty bartender, potentially spiking your cocktail. According to drugs.com and WebMD, capsaicin has minor interactions with over 53 medicines, but key ones here include blood thinners. It slows the clotting and it starts to increase your bruising risk. So what about asthma? Well, asthma medications capsaicin ends up boosting the overall absorption, and it also amplifies the side effects. Diabetes drugs, drops of blood sugar even further. So you want to make sure that you're monitoring these things like a hawk. Aspirin, well, it reduces its uptake, weakening the overall pain relief. So what about vitamins? No major issues have been reported. Capsaicin doesn't clash with B vitamins or C vitamins or D vitamins in studies, but indirectly, if it affects clotting, watch vitamin K. Cayenne, well, that's even just more capsaicin, so it amplifies the overall effect. So overall, be safe, make sure you consult a doctor, and if you're really thinking this through, it's like adding hot sauce to your vitamin smoothie. It's zesty, but don't over pour. All right, so we've talked about capsaicin's impact on the organs from skin to liver, mostly positive in moderation, as we've talked about tweaks in neuroplasticity for the brain and the many wins and protections that it brings. And we've also touched on the woes, the overall just going too hard with it and taking too much capsaicin, and the interactions with medications like blood thinners, and the key takeaway here being spice up your life, but keep it in balance. We've also talked about those individuals that are born with their TRPV1 receptors blocked or having some limitations that they're not able to experience the full effect, as well as we've talked about those individuals that feel way more than most, those supertasters, those ones that find that fine detail in everything that they try. As we have dialed through and walked into many of these different areas, there is no way for one person to be at fault in any which way. We are not asked or had these iterations changed in our overall biology. We are just simply born this way. So for those of y'all out there that are the rare few that have a TRPV1 receptor blockage or a limitation at which you're able to feel the full effects of capsaicin, go ahead and enjoy the journey, because the flavors and all the great time is still there for your taking. And if you're a super taster, well, just know that heat is going to hit just a little bit harder for you, but you will get to appreciate things that most folks will never taste. So make sure that you keep the drama checked at the door and realize that we are all here for the same reason: the love for capsaicin and the places that it takes us and the people that we meet along the way. Thanks for tuning in. And as always, if you are on a platform that allows for a rating, please leave a 5-star rating. That helps the algorithm continue to pump this out in front of other individuals that might be curious about the world of hot. If you're going to be out at the Houston League of Fire belt match this Friday, September 26th, I look forward to seeing you there. I'll be out there competing, doing some meet and greet, and I will be streaming it, of course, from my perspective. So make sure you tune in. I will be mic'd up the whole way through the competition, and it will be an absolute blast. Come out, have some spicy cocktails, try some spicy food, pick up tons of great hot sauce from the many vendors that will be there. It is going to be an absolute pleasure. And hey, if you are unable to make it out to that, but you have some time available in October 18th, North Texas Hot Sauce Fest is going to be held at Martin House Brewing. This is the third iteration of the overall event. Each year, it just continues to get better. So I look forward to this. There's going to be stuff for the family, stuff for those spice lovers, and just a great time all around. So October 18th, head on out to Martin House Brewing, North Texas Hot Sauce Fest. Look forward to seeing you there. I'll be running around. Come say hi. As well as there's another League of Fire belt match that is happening October 25th, and that is going to be the Dallas belt match. So look forward to seeing you all out there. I believe there's also going to be a hot wing competition for that. More to come on that competition as well as we get closer to it. Want to give a shout out for the sponsors, podvision.io. If you're looking to grow your brand, start your brand, you've hit a bump in the road, you're trying to figure things out, highly recommend checking out podvision.io for all of those needs, as well as webdx.one. Maybe you have an online site, maybe you had a guy at one point, maybe you lost contact with them, maybe you never got around to building a website. Highly recommend checking out webdx.one. They make it simple, painless, and easy. And best of all, you get to focus on what you do best while they get you looking great online. I'm Brandon Swear, and from everything from the world of hot, this has been The Swear Word.